Artificial intelligence isn't just a tool in our factories anymore. It's actually starting to become the manager. And as AI makes more and more decisions that affect real people, we have to stop and ask, are we building our own values into these systems? Today, we're going to look at the ethics of AI in industrial management and, what it really takes to get it right.
And this right here is the core question we're digging into. I mean, it's one thing for a machine to assemble a car part, but it's a whole other ballgame when it starts managing people. The real challenge is figuring out how to embed our deeply human values, like fairness and honesty, directly into the code itself.
So to really get what's at stake here, we need to understand this huge shift that's already happened. AI has evolved, big time.
AI has literally jumped from the lab to the factory floor. And it's not just doing repetitive tasks anymore. It's analyzing, it's predicting, and it's making key operational decisions. This leap from being a simple tool to a strategic partner is exactly why our old rulebook just doesn't apply anymore.
This new partnership brings with it 4 major ethical hurdles that every single organization needs to face head-on. So let's break them down one by one.
All right, first up is the deeply personal issue of privacy. The very same technology that can optimize workflow can also, monitor every single move an employee makes.
And the threats to privacy are really specific. We're talking about systems that can track worker efficiency with a level of detail that feels like constant surveillance. Think about the collection of biometric data, fingerprints or facial scans, often without employees really understanding how that data is going to be used. The real danger here is when that data gets misused, where information gathered for one thing gets used for something completely different.
Next, we have to talk about bias. It's easy to think of machines as being totally impartial, right? But they're built by humans and they're trained on human-generated data. And that means they can inherit all of our prejudices.
For instance, an AI screening resumes might learn to favor candidates from certain backgrounds just because that's what the historical hiring data shows. If the data it's learning from is biased, guess what? The AI's decisions are going to be biased too. This can lead to some serious automated discrimination in hiring, promotions, and even in performance reviews.
This brings us to the third massive challenge. What happens when we don't even know how an AI made its decision? This is what a lot of people call the black box problem.
Let's say an AI flags a worker for poor performance. If nobody can explain the specific data points or the logic that led to that conclusion, how can that worker possibly appeal it? And if that decision was just plain wrong, who's accountable? The programmer? The company? The AI itself? You see, without transparency, accountability is pretty much impossible.
And finally, we get to the most direct human challenge, the impact that AI and automation have on the workforce itself.
And look, this isn't just about jobs being lost to automation, although that's a huge piece of the puzzle. It's also about how the very nature of work is changing, requiring totally new skills. And for the people who are still there, working alongside these increasingly smart systems, that can have a real negative impact on morale and their sense of value.
So those are the major hurdles. I know, it can feel a little daunting, but there is a path forward. Let's take a look at a framework that can guide us toward a more responsible way of implementing AI.
These 4 principles right here are the pillars of an ethical approach to AI in the workplace. And they're not just abstract ideas, they are actionable goals. Let's dig into what each one means in the real world.
First, we have to pull back the curtain on AI. Transparency is all about making the invisible visible.
So what does this actually look like? It means creating clear documentation for how an algorithm works. It means telling employees exactly how and why AI is being used in their workplace. And crucially, it means building systems that can actually be audited so that when a decision gets questioned, you can go back and review the entire process. The second principle is justice. This is all about the active, ongoing effort to ensure fairness and to stamp out that algorithmic bias we were just talking about.
This starts right at the design phase by intentionally building systems for fairness. But it doesn't stop there. It requires constant vigilance, regularly checking how the AI performs across different demographic groups to catch and correct any biases that might pop up. Ultimately, technology should be a tool for expanding opportunity, not for limiting it.
Third is accountability, because when things go wrong, and let's be honest, they will, there has to be a clear path to fix it. At the end of the day, a person, not an algorithm, has to be responsible. This means defining who is ultimately in charge of an AI system's results. It also means creating clear channels for employees to appeal decisions they think are unfair. And critically, the organization has to step up and take responsibility for any harm caused.
And this brings us to the fourth and maybe the most important principle of all, because it's the foundation for all the others: a fundamental respect for human dignity.
Technology has to serve people, not the other way around. It's that simple. This means preserving the dignity of every single worker, making sure they give informed consent before any of their personal data is collected, and ensuring that at the end of the day, human well-being is always the top priority.
This quote really just gets to the heart of it all. This isn't about being anti-technology, it's about being pro-humanity. The real work is to be intentional, to build our values directly into the systems we create, and to steer this incredibly powerful technology toward a future that actually benefits everyone.
And that brings us to the end. So I'll leave you with this question to think about in your own world. Whether it's privacy, bias, or transparency, just identifying the challenge is the very first step towards solving it. Thanks for tuning in.